Do we need the fifth Marian dogma right now? Absolutely, we need it right now. And this is why. We've been talking about reasons for this fifth Marian dogma, which include elements of clarity, personal dignity, femininity, ecumenical benefits. But in today's segment, we're going to talk about why this fifth Marian dogma is really crucial for the world at our present time. Welcome to MaryCast. This is Dr. Marc Mero, Professor of Theology and Mariology at the Franciscan University of Steubenville. And indeed, we've talked about a number of reasons, in fact, 8 other great reasons why we should have a Marian dogma right now. Clarifying theological talk, asking Our Lady to enter the ecumenical dialogue with her graces to unite us like we can't do on our own. Personal dignity with a woman and a person, a human person, who uses her freedom to say yes to save souls and encourage us to do the same thing. Even elements of truth that regard the elements of redemption and the culture of death, and that suffering is redemptive, which impacts every aspect of our life. But in reasons 9 and 10, my friends, I think we're really getting to the jugular of why, absolutely, we need this dogma yesterday. We need this dogma as soon as we can get it. The 9th reason for the proclamation of the dogma now is the fulfillment of the great Fatima Prophecy. In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. July 13th, 1917, Our Lady comes to the Fatima children, talks about the difficulties, attacks on the Church, specific attacks on the Holy Father, the various annihilation of nations, communism taking over the century and spreading its errors throughout the world. But Our Lady's saying, in the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph, and a period of peace will be granted to the world. Okay, what does that mean? Does it mean that with the triumph of the Immaculate Heart, we have no concept of suffering, that everything will be almost like a heavenly state? I don't think so. I think what we're talking about when we're talking about the triumph of the Immaculate Heart is eventually a fundamental era of peace where people are fundamentally in this state of grace, fundamentally accept Jesus. The human family as a whole accepts the fullness of the Eucharist, Our Lady, the Holy Father. Truly a remarkable concept, and truly, I think, a remarkable promise that I think is fulfilled and will be fulfilled in what Our Lady says at Fatima if we cooperate. Now, where does the dogma fit in, the fifth Marian dogma, with the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary? Many contemporaries, and I would certainly agree with them, have stated that the dogma is the key to the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. The dogma opens the door to the triumph. Now, how so? Let's get very specific. How can proclaiming Mary as co-redemptrix and mediatrix and advocate affect a new release of graces for humanity? How can that, quote, unlock the heart of Our Lady and lead to the triumph of the Immaculate Heart and an eventual era of peace? Theologically, it's for this reason. God does not force His grace upon us. God said through Our Lady at Fatima that He wishes to establish devotion to her Immaculate Heart, and only with this devotion would indeed peace enter the world. This is the concept and the understanding that God has basically said, I want the Mother of Jesus acknowledged for what she's done. And until she's acknowledged for what she's done, I will not permit her full intercession. And once again, this is not a new parameter, but a classic parameter. God never crosses over the limits of human freedom. So if we want the full-blown, the full empowered intercession of Our Lady as co-redemptrix and mediatrix of all graces and advocate, her full gift and love to us, her children, from her, our spiritual mother, then we have to acknowledge her as that. We have to recognize her as that. We have to have the Vicar of Christ on earth, the highest authority on earth, solemnly and definitively say, yes, we do accept her as the spiritual mother of all peoples. Yes, we do acknowledge that she suffered with us with Jesus like no one else, that she brings us the graces of redemption like no one else as the mediatrix of all graces, and that she intercedes for us like no one else as the advocate, especially in times of difficulty. So The proclamation of the fifth Marian dogma is humanity, represented by the Vicar of Christ on earth, saying, yes, we accept the gift of Jesus on Calvary to behold our mother. And even further, that we acknowledge we need our mother for the state of the church and the world today. And this dovetails into our 10th reason why we need the dogma now, and in my opinion, right now. That part of the graces of the dogma will be her intercession to help mitigate degeneration, disaster, and war. That means that she, once she's proclaimed, will flood the world with a new and incredibly generous degree of graces to assist us in these three critical areas. Degeneration, moral collapse, moral decline, everything from abortion, euthanasia, remarriage, the homosexuality issue, the cloning, the trafficking. We all know that the kind of the horror litany that's a reality in our world right now in the area of moral degeneration. Secondly, natural disaster. The levels of natural disasters are record-breaking. This is documentable through places like the Red Cross, the United States, and throughout the world. The level of the devastation through natural disasters is unprecedented. We're looking at situations even, for example, in May of 2008, with the loss of hundreds and thousands of lives, just combining the disasters of China and Myanmar, and millions upon millions of homeless people who themselves have a proximity to death with the disease and the cholera and the lack of food and water and all the dimensions necessary for a common standard of life. This is disastrous. And my friends, we've got to take this seriously, even if it's not on our doorstep. That would be a very selfish and self-contained concept. Well, it's not affecting me. If it affects the human family, it's affecting you and me. And we need Our Lady's intercession, her full intercession, at this particular time. You know, I'm reminded of the early church. In the early church, they prayed to Our Lady as advocate, especially during the times of Roman persecutions. These were life-threatening times. Well, my friends, we're in life-threatening times, both through disasters and also spiritually life-threatening times through the moral decay. We need Our Lady's full intercession. Cardinal Vithayathil, an Indian cardinal, he's the president of the Indian Conference of Catholic Bishops, has recently said, the glorification of Mary through this fifth dogma will bring graces untold to the world in areas that we don't understand, because to glorify Mary in a way that pleases Jesus releases her graces throughout the world. So there's a third area as well, which we have to face, and that's the area of war. Not only terrorism, but the creeping and now further drawing possibility of war, the great tensions between Islamic nations and the West, the realities of China and Russia. It is something that secular humanist analysts are examining, and we have to examine it too. So, to prevent degeneration, disaster, and war for our time, in perhaps unprecedented needs, especially in terms of possibilities of third world wars and nuclear wars, we need the dogma. My friends, I ask you to pray for the dogma, pray for our Holy Father. If you know the prayer of the Lady of all Nations is a prayer specifically given for the dogma, please take this seriously, peacefully but urgently. Pray for the fifth Marian dogma. We need it now, and we need it right now. God bless.